This podcast is sponsored by Ports and Palaces Vacations. Whether you are wanting to check out a new port along a cruise line or see the palaces of Disney and Universal, our travel advisors make your dream trip a reality. Your next trip is just a click away.
Hello and welcome to Ports and Palaces. Today we will be talking about everywhere that Disney can take you. Hello, this is Kirsten.
And this is Chad.
And today is January 14th, and we're going to be talking about everywhere that Disney can take you. So how was your week?
My week was great. Looking at an October trip.
We
so
are.
Exciting.
Big land and sea trips. Those are always fun. A little bit overwhelming to plan, but fun when you get there.
I think my favorite trip last year was pre-Christmas cruise on the Fantasy. Mm-hmm. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I got to see Lookout and Castaway. That was fun. And then we also had a big week at home. We had 2 snow days. Mm-hmm. So I was off and it snowed. So we're in Texas for all of our listeners. And it doesn't really snow here all that much. It did. And it was actually snow and not just ice. So we actually got to do some stuff with snow, which was fun.
I got to build a snowman for the first time in 5 years. So that was fun.
Mm-hmm. So that was big in Texas. We're definitely thinking about everyone in California, all those fires. And we're hearing a lot about celebrities, but I know that there's just day-to-day regular people that have been affected, and just all our thoughts for them as well.
All right, Kirsten. So what was your favorite Disney character to meet up with?
Ever or on the cruise?
Either on the cruise or in the parks.
So I really liked in Hollywood Studios, there is Sully. That's pretty cool. That's a character that's really fun to meet. But then we got to meet C-3PO in the cruise. And that was one we've never actually seen or heard that people had met before. So that was really cool. Speaking of cruises, today we're going to talk about everywhere that Disney can take you. You know, you hear about Disney World or Disneyland, but there's just so much. We've been talking about the cruise. Cruises are becoming hot right now. I have booked more cruises lately than I've booked Disney World theme park vacations. But I think Disney just stands out in their entertainment value. They have such good IP, but then they're just a level of excellence. We just were taken care of so well on their cruise. You know, things like that I just think that Disney is standing out. But I don't think people know everywhere that Disney can take you. Can you name all the places that Disney can take you, Chad?
Lookout Cay, Castaway Key? Is that
Key,
the right?
Yeah.
Key, but no, Disney definitely has something for everyone. There were adults-only parts of the ships, which were oddly placed a lot of the times for some of the special events or some of the attractions. Families would actually have to walk through or traverse the elevators or stairs in order to get around the adults-only sections of the ships. But we'll talk more about that later.
Yeah, so most people know about theme parks here in the States, and then cruise lines, especially when you talk about their private islands, which is what Chad's alluding to. But they've got beach vacations. So they've got Aulani in Hawaii, which is a big tourist spot there. And then they've got some kind of not as well-known, but beach vacations called in Hilton Head. So over in South Carolina, they've got another beach location. And then they've got Vero Beach in Florida. I actually have some clients that are going to Vero Beach and then going on a cruise. And then you've got all your international places. Happen to know any of those ones, Chad?
You're the expert.
That's okay. So we've got Tokyo and Hong Kong. And then we've got Paris. And then you've got Disney Cruise Line actually goes out that into Europe. And then in 2026, is it 2025 or 2026? I'll look it up here in a minute. But they're going to start going out of Singapore, which is really fun. And then you've got Adventures by Disney, which is like an international Disney-esque type of trip that is not in-your-face Disney stuff, but it is the Disney service. You're going to hear a lot about the excellence of service. They have private tour guides, but today we're really going to get into kind of when you're looking at Disney and maybe you've gone to the theme parks, what makes all these other destinations different and better for certain aspects of people. So the first thing we're going to talk about is, let's say you are a family with young kids and you want to go on a week-long vacation. So what would you recommend that they go to?
Personally, if they've never been to Disney World or a Disney cruise or anything like that, I would honestly tell them to try and go to Disneyland if they're still going to ride roller coasters and go on attractions and stuff like that. The parks are so much more compact, but they still pack the same punch of fun things to do. They still have Star Wars Land, which is a big plus for me.
Yeah, go to Galaxy's Edge.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I called it Star Wars Land. Galaxy's Edge.
You can tell who the travel advisor is and who the husband is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Disneyland is a great one for young children. There's not as much walking at Disneyland. You've got those two parks that are really close together. And I think Disneyland does an amazing job with their lands. I think Disney is getting there, but there's a lot of kind of mishmash sometimes. Whereas like, especially at California Adventure, you've got Radiator Springs and like the whole thing is just immersive. You've got Galaxy's Edge, which is completely immersive. You've got Toontown, which is immersive. Avengers Campus for, your older kids, your teenagers, that's immersive. And so I think they do a really good job of making sure that their lands are cohesive and you really feel like that part of the park you're there. Disney World's getting there. They've got, Toy Story Land, they've got Galaxy's Edge out there, but there's still some mismatchy kind of pieces to it that I feel like Disneyland definitely is superior in that. I always kind of go on the other side, though. I think Disney World is really good for young kids because I think in Disneyland you have to walk, right? Whether you're on property or you stay at a good neighborhood hotel, you have to pretty much walk or Uber. With young kids, you've got car seats and things like that. Whereas Disney World, you've got so much more transportation options. We love the Skyliner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's our daughter's favorite ride of the entire park.
It is, yes.
The Skyliner.
She will tell you that's her favorite ride, which of course we're just going to let her say it's a ride. It's a free ride, right? But you've also got the monorail. The monorail is a huge piece of transportation. Those two pieces of transportation are great in the fact that you also have to collapse a stroller. I don't know about y'all, but collapsing a stroller is tough business.
Which, funny enough, one of the last trips we went on, we actually had packed everything we thought we needed and then got to the parks and realized we had not packed the stroller.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually had to rent a stroller from Disneyland.
Yeah, it was Disneyland.
And really, honestly, the stroller wasn't that bad. But it was just very uncomfortable for our daughter and really wasn't a whole lot of storage and stuff like that. It was It was a theme park stroller.
Yeah. It wasn't meant to be cushy. But I do think that's why I even mentioned like you have to do so much walking in Disneyland. So it may not be the best with a toddler because we got complete firsthand experience of our daughter being like, I want to leave. I want a stroller right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, just prepare for some walking. But Disneyland does have some other things around it that are really cool, like San Diego Zoo, Sesame Place is really cool. But so those are your theme parks. Those are what people really think about when they think of Disney World. And then Disney's got a cruise line, and they go to a ton of places in the world. So, Chad, you want to tell us about those private islands? Those are the big ones. Everyone wants to go to Disney's private islands.
So I think the private islands are great. I think each one has their own facets that they are stronger with. Lookout Cay was the open beach, right?
Yeah. So the official, if there's a Disney person listening to us, we're not that popular, but just in case, the official title is Lookout Cay at Lighthouse Point. You're going to hear people say Lookout Cay or Lighthouse Point just because Lookout Cay at Lighthouse Point is a mouthful. But yes, Lookout Cay is their newest island.
So Lookout Cay specifically, its beach is open to the ocean, unlike Castaway Cay.
Mm-hmm.
Castaway Cay has a seawall of rocks and stuff like that kind of wrap into the beachhead that turns it into a lagoon. So there's not as high of waves or not as high of a current coming in and out, stuff like that. So really, it's kind of up to you what your preferences are, stuff like that. There are definitely a lot more activities at Castaway Cay, seemingly, but they're way far spread out. Whereas Lookout Cay is a lot more compact, and that's my favorite buzzword for this podcast, compact. But the beach is wide open to the ocean, which is what I'm used to, and I used to go to Florida growing up, but no, I really enjoyed my time on that beach, and the little cabanas. I call them cabanas, the little restaurants with the covers. Yeah, shops.
Yeah, I feel like the comparison of the two, well, one's a beach and one's an island, which is a whole different story, but I feel like that could even be its own podcast, or maybe over at our YouTube channel we could kind of go through the differences. I know that's a big thing that people want to know. They want to go to the new island, but then they want to kind of know what's different about the two. I feel like that's definitely something that is nuanced, but a lot of people definitely want to go to those private islands, because when you are on a private island for Disney, everything is, I shouldn't say everything, most things are included. So your food, if you need drinks, refills of soda, of water, everything's kind of included. The beach experiences are included, which is a huge perk when you're already paying so much on a cruise. So I think if you're looking at those, you're definitely going to want to talk to your travel agent or look for a Bahamian cruise. 99% of the Bahamian cruises are going to probably hit one, if not both of those islands. And then sometimes you might see a Western Caribbean or an Eastern Caribbean cruise that goes there. But those are going to go more to like Cozumel, Progreso. You might have some that go to the eastern side. And so you do like Tortola and the Virgin Islands, all those little islands on the Eastern Caribbean side. But then Disney does really well. They do Alaskan cruises. That's one cruise that's so on our bucket list right now, but we're waiting till our daughter gets a little older and can appreciate all those glaciers. But Disney goes to Alaska, and that's something that a lot of people want to do. They're like, I don't want to go to a beach. I want to go somewhere cold. And so they want to go to Alaska. Disney also does Australia. They've been in Australia right now. And big news on that, one of our favorite dogs is now on the Wonder. Wonder who that is.
They go by the name of Bluey.
Yes. That was kind of a surprise. We were actually on our cruise in December, and Disney was like, Bluey will be joining the parks and cruises. And I think I looked right at you and I was like, they're going to go to the Wonder first in Australia, because of course that's where they're from. I
was wondering which ship it was that was in Australia.
Yeah, it's the Wonder right now, and then they'll position over to Alaska. And then Disney Cruise Line also goes to Hawaii. So I'm going to eventually have to persuade Chad to take one of those cruises, because then we can stay at Aulani, right? We can go on a cruise and then go to Aulani right there in Hawaii. And then I think a cruise we really want to go to is European cruises, and that the Norwegian fjords would be really cool. Live out our little frozen dreams. Yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of people want to talk about where their cruises are going, but I think some people are also leaning more into the actual ship that they're going on. I think Disney is kind of expanding. I know when I started this travel agent business, there weren't as many ships, so it was really easy to sell because it was like, oh, these 2 ships. And now they've really started to expand. So you've got your older ships are the Magic and the Wonder. The Magic typically does Cozumel, and then they do some like San Diego, and then they sometimes go over into Europe. But right now they're actually going to be stationed back in Florida, which will be interesting. They haven't been there in a while. That ship was just renovated, so it's actually not the newest ship, but it's newer in the fact that it's been completely renovated. And then you've got the Wonder. We just talked about them. They're in Australia right now, and then are going to be heading over to Alaska for the summer. So that's exciting. And then you've got your next class of ship, which is the Dream class. But the Dream has a sister ship, and it's called the
Fantasy.
Yes, the Fantasy.
The Fantasy.
And those are a little bigger, but they are very similar to the Magic and the Wonder. And then we had a whole new ship class come out in 2022, and that was the Wish class. And that's the one we're going on for Halloween, which will be really fun. And then the Treasure just started. The Treasure is really fun. I think that one's someone we're looking forward to a lot because it's not as girly as Chad likes to say. There's some more manliness, Hercules and Aladdin. Not as many girly things.
Yeah, I was fine with the girly stuff as long as I got to meet C-3PO.
Yeah. And then next year, one that I'm really looking forward to is the Disney Destiny. So Disney's finally kind of giving in a little bit and showing off their villains some. People love the villains. I know we love Cruella.
It's also a very good movie.
Yeah. And Maleficent. I think Piper likes Jafar. She seems to like that one.
Yeah, weirdly.
Yeah. But so we'll have to see what villains come into Disney Destiny. Maybe that's one that you and I just go on by ourselves and decide what we're going to do with Piper. We'll see. And then you've got your cruise lines. So that's kind of the wrapping up of your cruise lines. And then you move into your international spots. So Disney actually has parks in Paris, Tokyo, Hong Kong, and Shanghai. And those obviously are in other parts of the world. And you kind of get to experience those parks, experience those Disney things, but experience the world, which is really cool. A lot of clients look out and say, I want to go to London and Paris and then do a couple days at Disneyland Paris. With us being US based, it's important to also pull those into international trips, which is what you typically see. Which one do you think will be the one we hit first?
Too many different choices.
Okay. I feel like Paris will probably be the one we go to first. We've both been to London. I've been to Paris before. So I feel like that would be the next step for us.
I've never been to Paris.
Yeah. And then
I think next easiest one to reach.
Yeah. I think Shanghai and Hong Kong are close enough together that we need to do the Disney Adventure cruise ship at the same time in Singapore.
Well, I commented to Kirsten the other day, I think my phone is listening to both of us talk because all of a sudden on Instagram, I just got a flood of posts about Disney, Tokyo, and how crazy the lines are, and everybody's packed like sardines in lines, stuff like that.
So then, speaking of international trips, you've also got Disney's like elite product, which is Adventures by Disney. And that is, heck, everywhere. I think they do some in America. They do international spots. And these are more just tours around the world. So think, if you were wanting to go to Spain, but you wanted a private guide that took you through all these places and the ins and outs, and they're from the area you're looking at, and they know where to go, and you get private tours of certain things. Like, this is what people say when they say Disney excellence. Like, this is the product that I think comes to mind. Like, there's really not a whole lot of Disney. Like, Mickey's not chilling with you on the tour, but I think it's that Disney excellence where you're going to have a good time, you're going to be taken care of, and you don't have to plan a lot. Like, I think if someone looked at me today and was like, I want to go to Italy and I don't know what to do or where to start, I'd be like, well, let's look at Adventures by Disney, because basically they plan it for you. They are from Italy. They know where to go, what to do. So that's Adventures by Disney. Those are those elite products. And then we kind of skimmed over it a little bit, but the other product that's Disney does and Disney has as a destination, but is not as well known, are their beach locations. And I think those are for people who like Disney. They've done Disney World a few times. They're cool with it. They like the characters, but they don't need it in their face all the time, and they don't want to rush between the parks. So you've got your beach kind of vacations, and those are in Hawaii. So Aulani in Hawaii, and then you've got Hilton Head in South Carolina, and Vero Beach, which is not far from Orlando. A lot of people that want to check that out will do it before a cruise or before or after their Disney World vacation. So those are all the places Disney can take you. Obviously, a lot of places. I don't think there's one type of vacation not listed there. Can you think of any kind of vacation that Disney doesn't offer?
Not really. They give pretty good escapes to different parts around the globe.
I think one thing that Disney does really well is grows with you as a family. Like when your little kids are around you, your first thought is always going to be, oh, I've got to take them to Disney World, right? You want that castle picture, or you want the picture with Mickey. And so you have a lot of families with young kids that are like, I want to do Disney World, or I want to do Disneyland. And then you have the people that are like, cool, I've done that. Okay, my kids are a little older. And man, then you just slide right into Disney Cruise Line because they've got the kids clubs. They've got, that safety of your kids being there with you on the boat. Like they're not somewhere else completely by themselves, but they're getting that immersive Disney vacation where Tinkerbell is drawing with them, or they're having those character moments, but you can kind of slip away and do some adult things on the boat and then come together as a family. I think the cruise line is definitely for those kind of, our daughter is younger, but she loved it. So maybe that, getting a little older, preschool, heading into like your elementary age, that's really good for cruise lines.
I think one of the best things about the cruise that we went on recently was that it didn't seem like there was any time slot in the schedule that didn't have a special activity to go to, or a class or something.
And it wasn't just a ride. Like it was, man, we had the cooking classes, trivia, you go see a movie, or I think we would have been perfectly fine just to be at the pool like the whole time. So I think it kind of caters to people who, if you like the theme parks, you like the activities, there's so much to do, but there's also so little to do if you don't want to. Like if you just want to relax, I think that's really cool. If you're just there for like the shows and the dinners and you want to relax the rest of the time, like cool. Here's your Disney vacation.
I think that's what the major appeal of the cruises are. I think that's one of the major appeals of the cruises is it appeals to both the people who want to go to a park and have endless activities, but I think it also appeals to people who want to just sit back and relax and have their private time, or their me time, as people like to say.
Yeah, and I know something we've brought up several times just when we're talking to other people, but then also at home when we're planning out vacations, is we're getting to the point where we're ready to branch out into some of these international places, but the idea of doing that on a Disney cruise line seems more comforting, or puts me more at ease, because I can go out and explore these areas, but then come back to my ship where all my stuff is and everyone speaks my language, and I feel more comfortable, especially with your serving team. They're with you the entire trip. So I think that if you're wanting to dip your toes into some of these international places, maybe look at Disney Cruise Line as your base point. I want to go to Spain, but I want to do it on a cruise. You sleep and the cruise takes you where you need to go. That's pretty cool. No planes. Then I think that's where I would say your older kids, but a lot of adults just go on cruise lines by themselves. So that's definitely, you don't just want to say, oh, well, it's just a bunch of kids, I don't want to go there. And then I think you move into your, middle school, high school kind of age of kids. And that's where I think the beach vacations really come into play. You've still got your Disney touches. You're used to Disney service, but then, you're in Hawaii and you want to go do excursions and other things, but come back to your hotel where you're going to be taken care of well. Those beach vacations really come in. And then once I think people are older and can really appreciate international vacations, that's when those international trips really come into play. And so I like that Disney Cruise Line kind of grows with you and grows with your family. And no matter where you are in your family's life, or if you're a single adult just in your life, it kind of caters to wherever you're at and whatever you need. There's no one set Disney vacation. I think another thing to think about for Disney trips is you can go one time, but that's not going to be everything that you see and do. Disney does a really good job of bringing in festivals or, seasonal events and things like that. That could be a whole nother podcast, but, you go to Disney once doesn't mean you're done. There's so much else to do and see. Disney Cruise Line has seasonal events.
Well, and even with just the standard park trip, no special event, you're going to find something new every time, whether it's a menu change or, there's a new character meetup location.
Like C-3PO just was there. And then shameless plug, but then what exactly does a travel advisor do with all that? So obviously when you're looking at a travel advisor to work with, you want someone that knows all these different places and can know your family enough to say, hey, I don't think that vacation is right for you. Or, how about we look at this kind of tweak here, and I think this would be better fit for your family. You want someone that you can trust, but then also you want to know that that person knows these destinations and knows what fits right. I will probably never be like, hey, you just have a 6-month-old baby. You should try to go on Adventures by Disney Cruise. That would be so much fun, right? Like you want someone that's going to see what you want and then maybe help you see the vision of what you need. And then also just kind of knows those seasonal events, knows the weather around there. I get so many questions of like, when is the best time for weather in Orlando? And you can look it up on a weather app, but you want to find someone that has that personal experience that can be like, yeah, don't go in August, right?
Right.
So that's an important thing, to find someone that travels, that does those things, that has experience on the booking side of it, that knows the ins and outs of, on this day, you really need to have this decided. They know that at Aulani, certain things open up on certain days, and that may not be public knowledge, or you may have to dig around for it yourself, but a travel advisor knows the ins and outs of that enough to say, hey, I need to get with you on this day because in 2 weeks, you're going to have to book that. I think that's something that is invaluable on a travel agent side or travel advisor. We were just talking about that today, all the different ways you could say travel agent, travel advisor, travel consultant.
I think one of the biggest ways that the vision and expertise are brought to life is through all the different quotes and tweaks and stuff like that Kirsten can show you and fit your needs.
I forgot one trip that is like the ultimate Disney. They do a around the world jet flight to all the different parks. So in one field trip, you could do every single Disney theme park. That sounds like the best trip ever. Wouldn't you agree?
There's no telling how expensive that is.
So if you stick around with us long enough, you'll learn a pattern that I am always planning the next 4 or 5 trips, because I'm so excited to try different things. And Chad will be like, just tell me how much it costs, because I can't get past the cost of it. So that is completely telling right there, where I was like, wouldn't that trip be so cool? And Chad's like, how expensive is it? Unfortunately, when you're married to a travel advisor, you talk about travel probably more than anybody ever should have to, but it's part of our life. Mickey is just with us at all times. Anyway, I think that's all we've got for today. This was just a little overview of everything Disney can offer you. Disney is not the only vacation out there, but if you're here listening to us, it's probably because you're looking to plan a Disney vacation. So I would love to chat with you. I'd love to chat with you, see where you're hoping to go. If you're wanting to go in the next couple years, I'd love to start planning with you. I always say it is better to start planning early, and I can give you at least a cost thought, and you can kind of start mulling over that cost thought, and then we can plan and we can be ahead of the game versus, hey, I want to go to Disney World next week. What can we do? So just a shameless plug. I'd love to work with you. I work with a lot of people, but I really take my clients in as friends, as family, and they kind of become someone I think about and want to make sure that they have the best vacation. But we also want to know, if you're listening right here, what is your best Disney vacation? Do you always go to the theme parks? Do you go more on the cruises? Is it more you're on the international side? You're like, I'm going to get all these international trips, bucket list done. Let us know. On Instagram, we are Ports and Palaces Vacations. We'd love to know where you're going. Find us on Instagram, TikTok, and let's chat.
We'll have all those socials and connected services in the information at the bottom of this podcast.
Yeah. And then I think next week we're going to go into some resorts. That's always the next thing on Disney thoughts is, where am I going to stay? And do I have to stay on property? So tune in with us next week. We're going to talk about properties. Tune in with us next week because we're going to talk about all the on-property amenities and why you should probably stay on property, especially for Disney World. There's been some changes. And then we're going to kind of dive into some of the properties that we've stayed at that tend to be the most popular, and why we've liked them, and why some of them we may never stay at them again. So until next week, this is Kirsten.
And this is Chad.
See you later.